Hi everyone, I'm David and this is Laura, and we're here to talk to you about the new Amazon Prime Video series, Britannia. If you're waiting for Game of Thrones, like I know we are, patiently waiting, which you probably have to wait till sometime in 2019. Yeah. It's a shame. But if you're looking for a nice sword and shield epic, a nice adventure period drama, I think Britannia is one that a lot of Game of Thrones fans are going to find interesting.
Yes.
Other series too, like if you like Vikings, Nightfall, there's a lovely show I love called Last Kingdom that you can find on Netflix, another good series. I think Britannia is going to be right up your alley when it comes out on January 26th on Amazon.
Yes, it definitely, you feel that it's very much leaning into those Game of Thrones tropes. You have a lot of characters starting out. It's very hard to keep track of them all initially. I couldn't tell you what anyone's name was after watching the first episode, because everything's kind of separate, but you get the sense that they're all going to interweave as we get deeper into the season.
Yeah, it's one of those episodes when you watch first episode, you're like, whoa, a lot of characters, a lot of names, a lot of new places to go. And to set everything up for you, this takes place 90 years after Julius Caesar tried to conquer Britannia and was scared off by the Druids and the Celts. So 90 years later, you have a new general coming there, played by David Morrissey, the governor from The Walking Dead, doing he's just chewing that dialogue. You know, he's hamming it up, but he's good at doing that because he's good at playing that very articulate, villain. I think he does a good job at that, and he's trying to do what Julius Caesar could do. He wants to take the land from these people. So you get both sides of the story here.
Yes, you see the Celts and the Druids on the British side, and then you see the Romans who are kind of coming in to conquer everything. Morrissey was interesting for me because he's very anachronistic. He swears a lot, which I guess you kind of you expect that from any of these cable streaming shows.
It's premium, yeah.
It's premium. I don't think there's not much nudity from the first episode.
No, compared to Game of Thrones, there's a little bit.
It's not tits and dragons.
Right, it's not Spartacus, Blood and Sand, for those of you Stars fans out there. That was a lot of it.
Show.
That was a great show too. I actually really enjoyed the action sequences in this series.
Yes.
I feel like Game of Thrones, the action's great, but I feel like when the knights are fighting, it's very realistic in the sense that they're not doing flips and kicks and swinging all over the place. It seems like, okay, this is how people in armor would move.
It's very messy and muddy.
Right, this one felt a little more stylistic, which I kind of enjoyed. There's some heads being chopped off and some crazy moves and some crazy bow and arrow work like Lord of the Rings, so I enjoyed those parts. It's a little bit more fantastical, but I like that.
Yeah, it's weird that it's kind of going for historical. I don't think it's claiming to be historically accurate by any means, but it walks that fine line between being very stylized and kind of blending the modern aspects that we like, the kind of more modern dialogue with some of these very historical rituals and the colors that you kind of see, the color palette. It feels very grounded in some ways and yet very bonkers off the wall in other ways, which is an interesting tone.
I think the Druids are really spectacular. They're scary. They're terrifying to look at. Like the way the makeup, the prosthetics they have on their faces look like hollowed out. They look like you're looking at a skeleton, and the eyes are super big and black, and it's terrifying. Like whenever they're on screen, I'm like, whoa, I don't know about these people. I don't know. I think they look pretty good.
Yeah. Mackenzie Crook is the lead druid from Pirates of the Caribbean and a number of wonderful British shows. Yes, he is a very weird character that it's hard to get a read on. He kind of reminds me of Floki from Vikings. If you guys have seen
He's the one in Pirates of the Caribbean, if you don't remember, he's the one whose eye always pops out. It's that guy. Once you see him, like, oh yeah, I recognize that guy.
He's a very eccentric character, very compelling when he's on screen. But yeah, with the Druids, you never really know what their agenda is. It seems like they're the kind of puppet masters who are negotiating with the Celts. So it seems like there are a lot of political things at play that are kind of intriguing and will set up some nice dynamics when the Romans actually get further into Britain.
And like Game of Thrones, there's some awesome female characters here. Some great female characters. Of course, you're going to have Kelly Riley, who is this lovely lady you see right behind me here. She is a princess, daughter of the king. Seems like she's kind of confined to her home, though, and she wants to get out, of course, and be an adventurer. I mean, she looks like Merida a little bit.
I was going to say, she has a bow and arrow. She does some sneaking out and some...
But probably one of our favorite characters, of course I'm putting words in your mouth, Laura. I don't know if it's one of your favorite characters or not, but I love the relationship between Kate and Divis.
Yes.
You kind of have, if you've seen the movie Logan, you kind of have that Logan relationship with a young girl, kind of a gruff, older man who's not her dad. I really enjoyed their relationship.
Yeah, it's very Arya and Hound. It kind of going back to that Game of Thrones comparison. This is a guy who doesn't want to be stuck with this young girl. She's kind of lost her family, so she's following him around like a lost puppy. It's an interesting dynamic, and it remains to be seen how close that will hew to the kind of Game of Thrones dynamic, because it does seem very reminiscent of this, gruff older guy who doesn't really want to be bothered with a kid but has to deal with her.
Right. I mean, instead of like the houses, there's different tribes.
Yeah.
And the problem, I mean, I think this is going to be the crux of the whole season. We've only seen the first episode, but it looks like these tribes are divided. And that's the problem. Of course, you have this big Roman army coming in trying to take it all over, and if they're divided, they're not going to be able to win. So we have to assume that they're going to have to try to come together if they're going to defeat the Roman army and keep those darn Romans. That's my only thing. I want to see a little more diversity amongst the Romans, because they feel like they're all bad guys, except for this one character named Antonius. I know you and I both enjoy. I think he's the most relatable, or at least sympathetic character in the Roman army.
Yes, he's a character who is from a country that was taken over by the Romans, as as kind of the Roman way, the Roman Empire, and kind of got enlisted into the military there. So it seems like he would have some moral conflicts about what the Romans are doing once they get to the UK.
So, I mean, this is a show that, again, we're not saying that it's the new Game of Thrones or this is the next Game of Thrones. We're saying while you're waiting for the next year, looking for the perfect period piece, nice sword and shield epic, I highly recommend that you check out Britannia on Amazon Prime. All of the episodes will be streaming on January 26th. There are 9 episodes. But, like we always say, that is not the only thing going on in the world of streaming and in the world of television. Speaking of television, be sure to check out why I thought Starz' Counterpart is the best new series of 2018 so far. And don't forget to check out Netflix's new ambitious cyberpunk thriller, Altered Carbon. My review's up there. You can check that out as well. And be sure to like and subscribe to IGN everywhere you like to watch.